And coming up, we'll talk about the Iranian deal, in addition to radio deal going bust. Plus, we'll talk about the Boy Scouts giving, or the LDS Church giving the Boy Scouts the boot. Don't forget, coming up, our big Unity rally and breakfast at Terry's Cafe in Meridian right before the Unity rally at the state capitol. We'll be there with all the leaders of the Republican Party, both people that have won and lost, and we'll be having breakfast together and then going to the state capitol, as well as our primary night coverage on May 15th. Joining us now, Senator Bob Nonini on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Kevin. How are you?
Back to the slogan that I say to everybody, Idaho needs Nonini. How are you doing in the last few days of the campaign, sir?
Well, pushing hard, Kevin. I'm up in the northern part of the state, speaking in the Coeur d'Alene Post Falls area this morning, headed to Bosco, Lewiston, and Grangeville the next day or so. Campaign people down in Boise, Twin Falls. It's pushing hard down to the home stretch, and just excited about next Tuesday's election.
Indeed, when you're taking a look at next Tuesday's election, what's at stake when it comes to who is Idaho's next lieutenant governor?
I think what's at stake is the records. And informed voters are so important to understand the records, what we've accomplished, what we say we'll do, have we been able to do it in the past, and I think that's where I stand out from my opponents. Very conservative record, very effective record. I can get it done. I can walk the walk. I just don't talk the talk.
Well, let's talk about it. When we're talking about your experience in the Senate, what makes you more qualified than others who have served in the legislature and others that haven't?
Well, what's interesting, the last couple of weeks, everyone seems to be talking about education, and I saw a recent poll that Idaho people value education very high, and that's whether it's public school, traditional public, charter school, private school, homeschooling, actually value it over the environment and economic development. And I'm the one that has served and promoted those school choice options in my time in the legislature. Now my opponents are all talking about it. It's like, well, where were they during the legislative time they've all served, if they served? Now they all want to talk about making education better. That's what I've been doing for 14 years. Idaho is really moving things ahead and in a great position. And that's what connects with the Idaho voters. I think it's, again, I'll go back to my previous comment about the record. The record's clear. The choice is clear. Idaho needs Nonini. What I've been able to do and what I'll continue to do as the next lieutenant governor.
Senator Bob Nonini with us, Kevin Miller in the morning here at KIDO Talk Radio. Let's talk about the state of the state. You're a guy from the north. When you come down to the south, when you see all the growth, how do you merge what's going on, in every section of the state? You got the east over there next to Jackson Hole. You've got your beautiful part of the country. You've got us in Twin Falls. Seems to be an eclectic mix, or is there more to the state than I'm suggesting?
Well, it's one state, although geographically different in many parts of the state. We are one state. We are the state of Idaho. And yesterday afternoon, I was out campaigning in the Coeur d'Alene area, and the traffic is just phenomenal. And talking to people and what the intersections are like, and so you made reference a second ago to the Treasure Valley and the growth down there. I was down there last week in cranes almost on every corner, construction everywhere. The same thing up here in Coeur d'Alene. It's going on around the whole state. What's interesting about that is you can't build it ahead of time. So there's always going to be a little catch-up. But with Idaho being the fastest-growing state, the fastest-growing personal income, the lowest unemployment, people are flocking here in droves. And in my part of the state, the northern part of the state, we're seeing a lot of people from Washington, a lot of people from California. And my concern is we want to keep it Idaho. People are welcome to come here, but we're not going to change Idaho. We're not going to make it into a West Coast state like Washington, Oregon, or California. Welcome to Idaho, but you're going to keep it Idaho. We're going to keep the conservative principles and the positive economic development the way it is. Nothing's going to change in that regard once I'm elected. An Idaho native, born and raised in Idaho, and I want to keep it Idaho. Welcome the growth, welcome the economic development, putting people to work. It's all good stuff, but we're going to stay conservative. That's for darn sure.
Senator Bob Nonini with us, Kevin Miller in the morning at KIDO Talk Radio, candidate for lieutenant governor. You know, a lot of people are griping about the traffic here, and they're griping about the people from California and the libs coming in. Your reaction?
Well, as I said, we seem to have maybe some more conservative type folks in the northern part of the state than you do down in the Treasure Valley. But the libs come in, they want to change it. They want to bring from California what they left. I won't stand for that. I won't support that. We want to keep it Idaho. Why are we the fastest growing state in the country? Why is our tax policy? We can continue to pump hundreds of millions of new dollars into education and at the same time give a $200 million tax cut. We'll continue that process. We're not going to grow government. We're not going to make it liberal like California where they just left. And if they want to make it that way, then I suggest those people, those libs, stay in California. Don't come to Idaho. Idaho is Idaho because of the way we manage our government. A lesser hand of government is what people want, not a bigger hand of government. And so for those people that want to change things, not going to happen. Not going to happen when I'm elected. It's not going to happen when a new governor is elected. We're going to keep it Idaho. We're going to keep it conservative, and we're going to keep it free.
Our great friend, Senator Nonini, with us here at KIDO Talk Radio. Let's get to some of the big issues. The grocery tax. Your thoughts on that? Should it have been repealed? And if elected, what are you going to do to quarterback that repeal or not to quarterback that repeal?
Well, I think it's the next tax that we need. There was a push to try to do it again this last legislative session that just concluded. The governor wanted to do income tax reduction. We passed that. It was $200 million. I think going forward in 2019, the next tax reduction we see is to eliminate sales tax on groceries. Living here in the northern part of the state with a border community, people can go right over to Washington and purchase their groceries, and that's wrong. It affects everybody, and it affects those people with the middle to lower incomes the worst. They all have to eat. They have to pay a big percentage of sales tax on their food, and I believe that is the next tax reduction we need, and I'll champion that cause. I've been a co-sponsor on the bills the last few years. The one that we were able to pass and the current governor vetoed, unacceptable, and I think all governor candidates running support that, and I sure in the heck support it. We don't want people going to other states. We need to repeal sales tax on groceries, and I'm looking forward to doing that once I take office next January.
Senator Nonini with us here at KIDO Talk Radio. You know, we touched on education, obviously something near and dear to your heart. Over the course of our years here in the Treasure Valley, this is our 15th season of going to schools every week. That is our future. And there, as you've discussed and worked in the legislature, whether it's, getting more funding, trying to figure out the teacher shortage, everybody has a thought on education, but what is the Nonini plan, regardless of who's governor and who's in the legislature, of improving Idaho's education plight?
Parental choice. I think when there's more choice in education, everybody has to do a little bit better. If there was just one car you were able to buy, they could make terrible cars. You wouldn't have a choice. If there were only one pair of jeans you could buy, they could make bad jeans. You wouldn't have a choice. Education should be the same way. Homeschooling, we're the freest state in the country. We're going to keep it that way. We need to work on tax credits for those people that want to send their kids to private school. We need to continue to expand charter schools in Idaho. I was a champion of that legislation years ago to take the cap off charter schools. They're the top performing schools in the state. In fact, up here in the northern part of the state, the North Idaho STEM Charter Academy ranks as one of the top, if not the top, public education systems in the country. The charter schools do so much more with so much less money, and why can't we copy those kind of models? Parental choice. It's not up to government to tell people how your children will be educated. It's up to the parents to make that decision, and we want to give parents that choice. However they want to choose it, that is the freedom of Idaho, and I'll champion that. Career technical, we've got to supply the employees to the companies that are screaming for trained employees. I spent a few hours last week at the Kootenai Technical Education Campus. We've got those models around the state of Idaho. I think we're moving in the right direction in Idaho in education. And I'm just disappointed that my opponents want to steal my thunder in that regard. None of them ever wanted to serve on education. It's funny how they want to talk about it now that they're running for public office. But in my opponents' times in the legislature, none of them wanted to ever serve on education. They ran from it like a scared little animal. And I was fighting the fight during the Great Recession, and I'll continue to fight that fight in education. It is the biggest part of our budget, the most important thing we do. It is our future, Kevin. You just said that. I couldn't agree more with that, but we need to provide parental choice. It's what's so key and so important to Idaho parents.
Indeed. And, the balance between public, private, home schools. Sometimes, Senator Nonini, I know this isn't the case with you, but the homeschoolers feel left out.
Well, in some legislation we've worked on in the past, the homeschoolers wanted to be left out. They didn't want any, whether it was tax credits we were working on, they didn't want to be part of that because they were afraid if they participated in any kind of legislation that might offer them tax credits if they homeschool, there would be strings attached. And so they said, just leave us alone, free a state in the country for homeschooling. So many thousands of people in Idaho homeschool their children, and they're some of the top performing students in the country. It's phenomenal. The organizations around the state that come together to work on homeschool issues, and how smart and how impressive those students are. We have the Pi Day at the legislature, and it's the homeschool students from around the state. It's just a great thing. Homeschooling, it's again why Idaho is so great. Zero regulations, and so the homeschoolers, I think they want to be left out because they don't want any strings attached to any possible legislation they would be involved in.
Senator Nonini, first of all, we hope to talk to you before primary night. We'll see you primary night, and we'd like to invite you to our Unity Breakfast on the 17th, and we hope to see you there. But I've enjoyed getting to know you. Look forward to getting to know you more, sir.
Well, I appreciate it, and I just heard before I came live on the air with you your mention of the Unity Rally next week, and looking forward to participating in that. The one thing after the primary, all Republicans need to come together, and that's what primaries are about. Primaries are about the party picking their best nominee for the general election in November, but we all have to come together and get behind that nominee, and I'm looking forward to my opponents getting behind me when I win the election next week. And we'll unite on the Capitol steps, and looking forward to seeing you next week, Kevin.
Senator, we love you. Good luck to you, and Idaho needs Nonini.
Thanks, Kevin. Idaho needs Nonini. Vote May 15th. Nonini, Nonini, Nonini. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Our great friend, Senator Bob Nonini. Coming up next, the Boy Scouts, the LDS Church, and you. I'll explain next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio.
For 105 years, Mormon boys have made up the largest block of dues-paying Boy Scout members, but starting in 2020, they'll be gone. The Mormon Church saying it'll be placing its remaining 425,000 boys in a program it's developing. This coming just days after the Boy Scouts welcomed girls and 3 years after gay troop leaders got the green light, something opposed by the church, which teaches that being in a homosexual relationship is a sin. The church giving its increasingly global membership as the reason for severing ties. More than half of its members live outside the U.S. and Canada. Lillian Wu, Fox News.
Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. So the Boy Scouts and the LDS Church part ways. We'll talk about that, plus Lieutenant Governor Brad Little. Let's go to the phones. Cindy in Caldwell joins us now at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Cindy.
Yes, thank the Mormons for standing strong. Judeo-Christians, also evangelicals, yes, homosexuality is a sin. God can deliver you and help you with that. And so do Roman Catholics. So Yahoo for the Mormons. But Kevin, that amazing program you're having. And Alex, you know what? With whatever happens, I have so many representatives that want to come alongside you. And, you know, I don't know if this is an overreach for you, Alex, but Yahoo for you, there, you know, you can start a little bit smaller and get involved in politics. You know, yesterday, Kevin, when our president actually drew the line in the sand and said no to this Iranian, it wasn't even a let's make a deal. It was a detriment to the people of the United States of America. And don't forget, there are those around them with a terrorist-led regime. And, yesterday also, Kevin, and I'm going to tell you something, was VE Day. And that was victory in Europe. And, I say that was a victory for us yesterday either, when it was the formal, acceptance by the Allies in World War II. But I'm going to tell you something else. I have missionary friends in Russia, and the Russians today, their celebration is they don't celebrate it until today. Why? Because there was such a stronghold over there that the Russians, 600 of them, there was a small town that they actually had to fight hand-to-hand combat, door to door to door. At that point, isn't this interesting? Hopefully the government schools have a lot of this in their textbooks. I'm sure they talked about this yesterday. The Russians went door to door to door. And, I have to laugh because even Stalin came out and said that it wasn't for the bravery and the courage of the Russians that we may have had, dilly-dallied with this for a little longer. So, I hope people read history, and I hope they understand that brave men like Alex, and his comrade in arms, only 1% serve, have kept you protected. And he was so right about our president, who knew in that lousy old omnibus bill, the one thing in there that our president stood as commander-in-chief before he was elected, and it was one of the reasons that I had no problem, voting for him, was that I knew how much he cared and wanted to stand by our military so we can have less Gold Star mobs. So great victory yesterday. Tragically, the Brits, were celebrating with all kinds of flags at one point,
right,
and now they're not. But you know what, Kevin? We're going to just press on with this, and I can't wait till you get over to that school tomorrow. I have so many blessings to tell by working with the School Sisters of Notre Dame, who were teaching nuns for 3 years in Connecticut. So good for you getting over to St. Ignatius. Have a great day, and we will all, carry on. And one reason we can, because of our military. And a shout out to the men of World War II today.
God bless, Cindy. Thank you.
God bless, Kevin. Bye-bye.
Traffic and weather to get. And let's go to Rob in Nampa with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Rob.
Morning. Thanks for having me on. Hey, I'm just on my way to work where I teach at a public school, and was listening to Mr. Nonini and thought it sounded really good with the, Idaho first type of thing and our values. But I do need to weigh in on his lauding of the charter schools and all that, and their performance, and factually that's true. But you need to keep in mind that charter schools and private schools pick and choose the students they allow in. So it's in no way comparable to take their test results and those type of things and compare them to public school performance. It's in essence, you're not comparing apples to apples.
Well, why don't you can you expand on that? As a former educator, I know where you're going, but a lot of people would think, well, what do you mean?
All right. Okay. Yeah, you're right. Well, for example, they have waiting lists of who they're going to accept into their schools. Well, they're not going to go down the list and accept kids who have behavioral issues that draw more class time, take more attention. In a public school, they're not going to take kids in a lot of cases who have have problems, special ed needs, things like that, into their schools. They're typically taking the top performing kids already who have the most parental support, the means, and those type of things. So kind of leaves a higher percentage of the kids with more challenges, whether they be special ed, lack of parent support, those type of things.
Right. You're bringing up what a lot of folks don't understand is the public schools have to take everyone, plus they have more restrictions. There's a thing called labeling that gets in the way of learning and stuff. Again, I was in education very briefly, and I have the utmost respect for educators. My best friend in college talked me into getting a teaching degree, and it changed my life. But there are a lot of things that many folks aren't aware of. On the other hand, with charter schools, then you've got to be more active in managing your budget and and running your school, I believe.
Right, but it's easier to be much more efficient when you don't have to hire additional adult aides to follow around special ed kids. When the kids have support at home, they have computer access, they have parents who are going to be on top of them to stay up on those grades. Take parent-teacher conferences, for example. We as teachers come to these parent-teacher conferences and never see the parents of the kids we need to see in a public school. And they don't voluntarily show.
Right, and then
but at charter school, they're going to be beaten down the door.
Well, and then you're vilified for the poor results. It really comes down to, Rob, and first of all, I appreciate your commitment to the classroom. It's not an easy job, what you do. Many folks don't understand it. It's very easy to vilify teachers and administrators until it's your kids' teachers and administrators. But, it comes down to what do we want our public education, not only in Idaho, but across the country to be? Is it one size fits all, which is the current model, or, do you have categories, which is what was the way it used to be, where you had special places for special kids?
Well, I agree with where you're going with that, and I don't want to say there's no place for charter schools and those type of things by any means, but it needs to be pointed out when we have people acting like that is the end all to fix our problems, that it's not, can't compare the direct results public to private. It's just, charter school is not necessarily private, but it is. In essence, it's a private school that somebody's made with public dollars quite often. And it's just not comparable. So, awesome to them. They supply a need that many kids will thrive better in. But again, in the big picture, it's not necessarily a reasonable fix to most of our educational problems.
Rob, we appreciate it. Thank you for the call. Okay, quickly to John in Meridian. We're running late, but we want to get John in at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. I'd have to disagree with the last caller. While I respect the public schools and they have to take everyone, I have not found that the charter schools turn kids away based on behavior, based on any, performance, any of that. Had some really challenging experiences in Ada County, the Meridian School District, with kids on the spectrum. And my son's in a charter school now that is extremely loaded with kids on the spectrum, and they do a good job. They do a specialized job. The challenge with the public schools is they're challenged with resources. They're overwhelmed. You would think they'd never seen kids on the spectrum before in some cases. While they have programs, they're not adequate. So I just have to disagree with that. They don't look at a kid's grades in a charter school or his behavior and choose those kids. They take it's just a random type of thing.
John, great insight. Thank you for listening to KIDO Talk Radio.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. You're listening to Kevin Miller. Coming up next, Lieutenant Governor Brad Little on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie. KIDO Talk Radio. We go live to the Lieutenant Governor, Brad Little, joining us. Good morning, sir.
Hey, good morning, Kevin.
So here we are, less than a week away. You're working hard. You're running around the state. Your thoughts on the last week of the campaign, sir?
Well, it is the last week. We're at Chilco, Idaho right now, winging our way across the state to another meet and greet, and that's what you do in the last week of the campaign. We're excited. We got a lot of enthusiasm up here, and looking forward to a week from today to when the voters of Idaho are the ones that are making their statement about who they choose to lead the state in county elections, legislative elections, and, of course, we constitutional officers.
Lieutenant Governor Brad Little with us as we talk about some of the big issues. You were talking to Senator Nonini before, and, would education be the biggest topic that you're hearing from folks on the trail?
But yes, because, right now we've got this incredible vibrancy in our economy, and the only thing keeping us from going to the next level is skilled workforce. We're the beneficiaries of this incredible growth, and the new jobs just require more skills. And so, besides being a constitutional obligation, we have a moral obligation to do the best job of preparing our kids for college and career.
And that's the challenge in balancing that with so many folks coming in. We're so Treasure Valley centric here. What would you say to someone like me that, thinks traveling is going to CUNA, as far as your experience being here your whole life, your family being here for many, many years, many decades, many generations of littles, as far as the rest of the state? And maybe you've learned something this time around running statewide.
Well, I mean, obviously we've got centers, and the Treasure Valley is one of them, where things are just going gangbusters. But we've got areas of rural Idaho that are still having some challenges. I was in Clearwater County a couple days ago, and Benawa County, and Shoshone. I was in Shoshone County yesterday, and those areas are having some challenges, and so we need to focus on them. But it's the same thing there. There's jobs that are available, even in Clearwater County, with it's one of the higher unemployment rates. There's jobs that are going vacant right now.
Which is amazing when you think of where we were just a few years ago.
It is. It is amazing. But, some of those places with high unemployment rates, people just want to live there because, their family, they love the lifestyle, and we need to diversify those economies. A modern sawmill, I just drove by one just a minute ago, just employs a lot less people than what they used to and when I was younger, and they got to have different skill set. The mines are different. Obviously, farms are different. Manufacturing and food processing plants. I'm going to tour an aerospace company up here this morning that I have been in 3 or 4 times, and they just continue to become more modern and require more skills from their workforce.
Here's a good one for you. Lieutenant Governor Brad Little joining us at KIDO Talk Radio. Have you enjoyed this race?
Well, it's been challenging. I listening to all the ads and listening to the same speeches, including my own, it gets a little old. But going out and particularly this time of year, I told a couple people yesterday, the first week of May, the state of Idaho is just so gorgeous. Just, it's adorned in its very finest. The colors, the vibrancy, the freshness of spring. It's just an incredible time to get around the state of Idaho, and it's nice to see such great optimism. When people's biggest concerns is where they're going to get their help for a new project and higher wages and better jobs, that's not a bad problem to have compared to what it was 8 or 9 years ago. So I love that part of it.
Indeed, when we take a look at just the growth, and I know, here it is. Here's my challenge, trying to come up with a question that you haven't heard on the trail. So I'm going to continue to try and figure that out as we roll along here at KIDO Talk Radio. Lieutenant Governor Brad Little joining us with Kevin Miller in the morning. So the traffic issues, which were non-existent 5 years ago, now it's a big issue, and perhaps it's an issue in other parts of the state. Twin Falls has become the newest American metro in the country, thanks to incredible growth there. So, people are in their cars, as you know, they want solutions to the problems that impact them.
Well, I often say the most valuable commodity that anyone has is their time. And if transportation's been a big part of my legislative and lieutenant governor's career, and that, you just do the math on what saving, if you just take the average person in the Treasure Valley and save them 10 minutes per commute each way, that's 20 minutes a day, and do the math, and then figure, the trucking industry, a truck at $80 or $100 an hour, and the value of people's time, we have got to make a more efficient transportation system. We got to be purchasing right away for expansion. We've got to be incentivizing off peak hour transportation. We've got to be addressing some of these issues because that most valuable commodity of time, and a lot of people are moving to the Boise Valley from Seattle and California, where it's vastly worse. And of course, they think we don't have traffic problems, but those of us that have been here for a long time think they're atrocious. and we're going to have to continue to work on that issue. It's a big priority of mine.
Lieutenant Governor Brad Little joining us. You know, I've caught the debates back and forth, and I was really struck by your tone of appreciation to Governor Otter. You've worked with him for many years, and we always talk about this, but the idea of loyalty. What's that been like to work with Governor Otter over the years, sir?
Well, he's been very generous to allow me to be a part of all the decisions that go across the governor's desk, and that's to see the complexity of it, to see the issues that are really critical. Last year we had all the flooding and all the snow damage, and to be in these communities where they're working together collectively, to fill sandbags to protect their communities, to shovel the roofs off of schools and churches. That really is part of the fabric of Idaho, and it's very impressive. But you have to remember, in the state of Idaho, if you're a resident here, you have the least amount of death per capita of any state in the union. And the fact that the people that have been governing Idaho have been that responsible gives us so much more opportunity than if you're in a state where they have that death and they have that they have that burden upon the future and upon their kids. And I'm very thankful that we don't have that in Idaho.
One thing that we do have is fire season coming up, and you've toured the state. You've worked with the Fire Prevention Service, reacting to fires and such. As governor, is there anything, I don't think you have a magic wand available to deal with the fires, but managing the public and private lands that have such an impact on us and our quality of life and the quality of farmers and ranchers?
Well, we're doing a lot of things on that in Idaho. One of the things we're doing is what we used to do as ranchers. We used to go out and put the fires out, and then for a variety of reasons, some of them safety. The agencies didn't want us doing that, and that was a problem. But now we've got ranchers out on the front lines that are the initial attack, and I know for a fact we'd had a lot more fires the last couple of years. And I was talking with a bunch of loggers yesterday, and we need to do more of that to get them to be an initial attack. But on top of that, the state of Idaho, better than any other state, is stepping up and kind of taking control of some of these forest health issues so we can lessen the threat of these big summer forest fires that pollute the air and everybody's just disgusted with, not only to lower the cost and the anguish here in Idaho, but to lower the cost of the federal government of firefighting. And that's a partnership between, the timber industry, the state of Idaho, the Forest Service. Those are all good things. So we are actively working to rid ourselves of the risk. We can't stop all the forest fires, but we're being very proactive in it right now.
And we have a couple calls for Lieutenant Governor. We go to Russ in Nampa at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Russ.
Good morning. I'd like to ask Brad a little about the ad that was run last night attacking Labrador about all his support of illegal aliens that are criminals and things of that nature, and also backdoor deals. Are you standing behind that attack, as it says on the ad?
Well, I understand there was a bill that was brought to my attention that he voted for when he was in the Idaho legislature, and I think I haven't seen it. I've been on the road so much, but I think there's a reference to that bill. Yes, I am.
All right, Russ, thank you for the call. Lieutenant Governor Brad Little joining us here. Kevin Miller in the morning at KIDO Talk Radio. Finally, and hopefully we'll talk to you before May 15th, and we'd invite you to our Unity Rally. We hope you can attend before the Unity Breakfast. That's the Unity Breakfast before the Unity Rally. See, you're on the trail, and I sound like I've been on the trail, but regardless, sir, at Terry's Cafe in Meridian, you're a party guy. You always put the party and everything else before your own personal needs. So your thoughts on the final week of the campaign and what you'd like to address to the voters?
Well, I mean, we obviously will. Right now, we're looking focused like a laser on the next 6 days to get through that. But we do just have incredible opportunity here in Idaho. I've got some friends in other states that are running in those other states where they're, cutting schools to 4 days a week and having to raise taxes and having to do a lot of things that we're not having to do here. I'm just grateful for the position we're in, but I'm excited about the incredible opportunities we have in front of us. Dealing with growth is one of the issues that we're talking about. There's a lot of states where they would love to have that problem. And we're just so blessed to be here in Idaho. But to me, the big issue is how do we create the best possible atmosphere for our kids and grandkids to stay here and to thrive. And all those decisions that I've seen as governor, if you look at those decisions through that lens, governing gets to be a lot more easy, because that makes you make those decisions, those hard decisions, to do the right thing long term, so that we have that atmosphere here for our kids and grandkids.
Lieutenant Governor Brad Little, we'll see you primary night. We'll hopefully see you before that.
All right, Kevin. Have a good day.
You too. Take care, sir.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. And we go to Hank in Boise at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Hank.
Okay. I didn't have the opportunity to ask about Brad about his support from the Prosperity Fund. That last ad you just ran on the radio was a Prosperity Fund ad for Brad Little. And it was the Prosperity Fund that was used to elect Scott Becky over Danny Bay, basically by defeating key conservative legislators across the state. And also Prosperity Funds were used by Butch Otter to basically defeat key conservatives within the party. And my question I didn't have a chance to ask was, how can he call himself a conservative when he's being sponsored by the Prosperity Fund? This is basically the heart of crony capitalism in the Boise swamp. That is the heart of it. Is the Prosperity Fund. This is where the road meets the rubber meets the road in terms of the sincerity and purpose of a politician. And my problem with Brad Little is, if you sleep with the dog or you're friends with the dog, you're going to pick up some of his fleas. And Brad's personally a nice guy. I mean, he's a pleasant guy. But I'll tell you what goes on with this Idaho Chamber Association of Commerce and Industry stinks. This is true crony capitalism and the kind of insider politics that this state doesn't need.
So how do you see this race playing out?
Well, I see the race, Brad catching up. I thought for a while that he was going to be third, but I see signs or indications that he's catching up. But I think in the end, I think that basically Labrador is going to win. I'm getting pretty sure of that. But I think that the biggest thing that happened in the last month is that in a lot of ways, Tommy's campaign is kind of stalled out. I think that some of his attack ads have worked to his detriment, where he should have kept on a little more positive message. But the biggest thing is that Brad was able to do is he was able to consolidate his support in the Magic Valley. So I think this is going to put him in second place in this campaign.
Well, that's your prediction less than a week out.
Right. That's my prediction less than a week out.
Hank, thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Let's go to traffic. All right, coming up next, comedian Frank King on a few things, most notably suicide prevention and his thoughts on taking your guns. A lot going on next hour. You don't want to miss it. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.